Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics. I am Phil, and joining me this week, returning guest, friend of the show. She's not sick of us yet, Miss Kelly Thompson. Hello, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
But yes, this time again, every time we talk, she has a new number one out. So this time, yes, it is Birds of Prey number one.
It's to make up for not having them for a while and sort of slowing down. Now it's a furious rush of comics coming out.
Oh, nice. But so did I see on like your newsletter and social media? So the response to this has been big.
Oh man, it's been huge. It's been huge. I felt really bad because, when you have a big launch like this, there's always going to be some people who are mad or who don't like it or who are just mean and like to, want people to pay attention to them or whatever. Like some of it's legitimate, although honestly when it's rude, I don't when it's rude and entitled, I don't know how legitimate it is. Even if you once had a good question, you sort of X yourself out by being entitled asshole coming at someone on the internet. It's just weird. But I felt a little bad because, some of those get through and it's hard to not let them get to you. Like my skin is much thicker than it was back when I used to write op-eds and stuff, but it still gets to you. You're human. And so I said something online that was very true and was how I felt, but it really, it sort of begs for people to be nice to me, which is the inadvertent intent. And then I feel a little bad, but it also hides. It puts too much focus. Like I wished I hadn't said it, even though it was true and I was feeling it. I wished I hadn't said it because it changes the focus to be about that negative stuff instead of the vast majority. I mean, probably have more reviews than I've ever had, maybe in my whole career for a number one. So that's awesome.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not a hard science fact that means more people are reading it, but it's certainly a good indicator that there's attention on it and people are, engaged, which is like so much of the job is just getting people to know your thing exists and like getting them to be excited about it. And so I feel like the response has been really incredible. There's there's some people that just I don't know. Something I came to yesterday, it's a little it's a little Buddha on the mountaintop for my vibe, which is not really that vibe. But I think it's something I'm going to try to onboard and really think about, which is that a lot of those complaints that I see or criticisms or the mean stuff, like those people's minds are closed, and a closed mind, it cannot grow, it cannot be changed. And thus, as a storyteller, I'm not fucking interested in it. Like if your mind is closed, we just don't have anything we can do, because my whole purpose on this earth basically is to like create stories that make you think, that make you feel, that make you reconsider. And I there's no point in me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some altruistic aspect where you hammer away at someone like that for long enough and maybe they let you in and they have a breakthrough. But you know, comics are completely you know, they're like an elective, right? Nobody needs a comic to like get through your life. It's like this beautiful elective we have on the side. And I feel like when people find it, it's so beautiful, but I can't make you open your mind. And I'm not saying that like I'm always right. I'm not. Oh my God, my God, my God, I'm so wrong all the time. But I am a pretty careful storyteller. I don't do things cavalierly. I really consider them. I pick incredible collaborators to work with, and I think the quality of that shows in my work. I think it's shown since the beginning of my work, and I still put in the same amount now, even though I'm very, very tired.
I mean, it's your art. I mean, that's why I've
Yeah,
told you.
I mean, I love it. It's hard. I can't disconnect from it. I mean, I don't like to say. I honestly don't like to admit that I put as much work into the cull as I put into, I don't know, Nancy Drew, you know, and that's nothing wrong with Nancy Drew. I'm just saying it's a work for hire project that I don't own. It's a character that, though I think I found a really good voice for her and I like Nancy Drew, it's not like I was raised on Nancy Drew and that's my dream project. It was just a gig and I did my best with it because I don't know. I mean, it's not even like I'm so altruistic or like, oh, it's my art, I'm suffering for my art. I'm just practical. I know that whatever thing you've written can be the first or last person thing someone reads. And so I'm just very protective of my brand. I want what I wrote to be good no matter what you pick up. And so I don't know. I don't think it's bragging to say I think I'm pretty good at making comics. I know how to do this. It's like what I've spent my whole life doing, so I better be pretty good at it. And you know, not everything, my style isn't going to be out for everybody. And um, I don't know. I don't expect everyone to like what I do or agree with me, but I just wish people could be better at letting things that aren't exactly what they want to just, you know, ignore it or try to embrace it and see what happens. But again, that gets back to that closed mind thing. It's just really hard, man. It's really hard. You know, I told this story before. I'm basically doing a monologue here, Phil. I'm sorry. It's not.
No, I mean,
It's
people hear me
it's
every
not
time.
pre
No,
it's not pre-prepared. If it makes you feel any better, but I have told this story before, but I think it's relevant. So a million years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know, what is time? When Scott Snyder was first doing Detective Comics stuff, when he did his Batman Black Mirror, well, I think it was in Detective Comics, but it gets collected as Batman Black Mirror. So that's for context for people who maybe don't know that off the top of their head. That's when Dick Grayson was wearing the cowl. He was Batman.
one of my favorite characters. Yeah, so this was
And
around 2011 or so. Yeah.
yeah, did I say 10 years? I think I said that. That was one of my options. So I love Dick Grayson. I love Dick Grayson. He's a phenomenal character. Well, who doesn't love Dick Grayson? I mean, where's your soul if you don't love Dick Grayson, right?
Exactly.
I love him, and he was a great Robin. He's a great Nightwing. I mean, talk about a great, you know, as someone who makes superhero comics, you ache for that great a transition of a character into a new character like that. It just builds. It's fantastic. I did not want him to be Batman. I was very mad about it. I was like, God damn it. You know, and like a part of me knew I was a smart person and someone who knew a little bit about the inner workings of comics, even though I wasn't working in it fully yet. So I knew that wasn't going to last. It was going to be a thing. It's a story. It's a whatever. But I just was like, I just am not on board. Why would we do this? Dick Grayson is a great Nightwing and Bruce Wayne is Batman. And we all know it. And why are we doing this? And I was really mad. God damn it, if those Scott Snyder Batman issues aren't some of my favorite fucking Batman comics I've ever read. I love them. I love them. They're great. They're great.
Yeah.
And they answer the question immediately as to why put Dick in the cowl? Why send Bruce away and explore these? Because it's interesting. Because it's a new story for them to do. Even if that's not what you want it to be or you don't think you're interested in it, just open your mind. These creators have taken you on so many cool journeys before. I know we've all been burned, but that happens in all media. Why not open your mind and let Scott Snyder, me, Tom King, whoever take you by the hand, and then, you know, at the end you'll know if you like it or not, and that'll be fine. And listen, I get comics are expensive, so you maybe don't want to invest all the way to the end if you don't think you're into it, but you'll know along the way if it's working for you or not, if you're being convinced, if things about it are interesting enough that they're sparking new ideas for you. But, you know, like there was a lot of excitement around the reveal of the Birds of Prey cast, and there was a lot of anger about it. And a lot of the answers can just be, I wanted to bang some new characters together and see what happens for all of our sakes. Like, I understand that people have been missing certain dynamics, and so they want to do that. But as a writer, it's very hard for me to do that and unearth new things for you. So as a writer, I'm trying to give you the best experience I can. And the best way I can do that is if I bang new things together and create new things. And that doesn't mean that Barbara can't ever come in, or Huntress, or whoever you're missing. But it does mean that we banged a bunch of things together and we created a bunch of new stuff. And now that dynamic has changed. And so now if we bring Barbara or someone else in, the dynamic has changed. And so already it's more interesting to me than if we had just started with Barbara, Huntress, and Dinah and a couple other characters. Like, there's just not enough room to try something. And I don't know. If you only want to come in for nostalgia, then yeah, I mean, I guess you were probably disappointed. And I feel bad about that, because the last thing I want is someone who loves a Birds of Prey book to be like, oh, I can't read this book. But I do think you're wrong. I think there's something really beautiful here. And if you open your mind to it, I think you'll see that it's all the spirit of the Birds of Prey that ever was, like, that's channeled into the book so powerfully. Anyway,
well,
that was my monologue. Thanks everyone for coming. See you later. Tip your waitress.
TED Talk. No, I was saying that. I mean, it's your art. I mean, like I try to tell my son. I mean, art. You can't do art wrong. It's like, does it speak to some people more than others? Yes, but so it's like, hey, how about kids? Give us you want to read. If it's not for you, I mean, you want your voice heard. I mean, you agree with me, right? It's like the company. You want people to hear your voice. You vote with your dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. But I love that you're telling your son that, because it's such a great lesson about art. And, I didn't really grow up in a super arty household, although my grandmother was an artist and a teacher. And so there was a little bit there, but we didn't talk about it a lot, unfortunately. But my parents are not super arty people. They're always very supportive of that stuff, but they just don't really get it like that. And they're certainly not obsessed with it like I am, although my dad is a huge reader at this point. He never really read when I was a kid because, he was busy. He was raising a family. He had a really, really strenuous, frustrating job. So, he wasn't reading a lot. But now he's voracious about it. So I sometimes think we're getting a little closer there, but it's really great that you can talk to your son about that stuff, because, an appreciation for art, it's truly one of, I don't know. It's something that makes us so human. Like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah. And again, I mean, people complaining about a new lineup for this team. It's like, yeah, come on, Kelly. The Avengers, the X-Men, nobody, the Justice League, nobody ever changes up their lineup. Never.
Oh man. We didn't talk about this, but I was very impressed with people's love for Huntress, which, I think we just have to give Gail Simone such credit for that. And I don't mean any sling on the character. I just mean when people talk about her, they talk about her as if she was a founding member, and she doesn't come on till, I think it's like issue 60 or something, like 62, maybe. I don't know. I may be getting my numbers screwed up, but it's a really long time. Like, I saw someone sort of defending me on Twitter the other day, and they're like, Huntress doesn't even show up for an arc or two. I wanted to be like, try like 12 arcs. It's a really long time before she shows up. And but it's pretty impressive that she's sort of made such an impact on that team that people sort of think of her as a founder. It's impressive.
And again, I mean, the lineup you have here, and like, characters like Barbara or Huntress, I mean, people are very passionate about these characters. So I think, that's to try to look on the bright side. It's like, you do have some, people.
Yeah. I mean, that is one way to look at it, is like the only way to get people riled up about this kind of stuff is because they care, which is a nice way to frame it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like the love for Barda and Cass, like, people are already seeing like what an incredible what an incredible pairing that is. They're amazing.
That was one of my favorite parts of this issue, is just Barda and Little Bat. Oh yeah, I love their interaction.
I'm a little worried because Cass is my favorite character at DC, but she is really tricky to write. And I knew it going in, but it still somehow took me by surprise. And it's just because you have to be really incredibly careful in your plotting, that you give her moments to shine in her own way, because you can't just give her a lot of dialogue to make sure
Yeah.
she's involved in the scene, because it's not who she is. She's not going to be chiming in, or telling jokes or whatever. She's observing. She's being a silent badass. She's just onboarding it all. But I realize that, she barely speaks in
Oh, yeah. I mean,
2 and 3. She barely speaks, and she has fight scenes in them, but they're not nearly as involved as what's in 1, which was a little oversized, and which she really got the lion's share of the fight stuff in there. So I worry that people are going to be like, "Oh, there's not enough cast now," because I like front loaded it with a lot of great cast. But hang in there,
yeah, I
because
think
you'll love what she does in issue 4 and 5. I think I'm still
yeah.
figuring it out.
I love that. Again, I love the interaction with her and Barta. I didn't even realize how much, because I think it was today I saw your newsletter, and I think you said something like, "Oh yeah, there's not as much Barta and Cass in issue 2," and like all of a sudden I just got this feeling like, "What? Why? Why is she depriving us already?"
There's we get a cool Constantine shows up in issue 2,
Oh,
and another cameo or guest starring role that I'm trying to keep under wraps.
cool.
But it shifts a little more the focus. First of all, there's some obvious like issue 2 stuff we gotta talk about, the mission. There's some of that stuff we gotta get through. But I hope I do it in the most engaging way I can. And then there's some basically like the prepping for the mission stuff, and so it shifts a little more towards Canary in issue 2, which I think is important because of what they're doing, and like really showing her sort of her plans and everything. But yeah, it does mean that Cass and Barta get a little less attention than they did in issue 1. But they really shine again. To me, their issues so far are 1 and 4 are their big issues. But I mean, listen, Barta wears the bikini in 2 and 3, so
Oh.
at least for a little while. Listen, they had to get in the water, Phil. What was I supposed to do? Not use that famous red bikini armor?
What, the Jack Kirby armor? Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
In fact, I had to scold Jordy because she sent in some more of those incredible colors, but she had colored it gold. And I was like, listen, this gold bikini is amazing, but this is an actual canon thing. It's got to be red. Having a fun time.
Oh,
It's a great team.
Speaking of like the art team, just incredible. Like that 2-page spread of just when Dinah and Cass were taking out those ninjas, and yeah,
it's amazing. Leo's a magician. I mean, I did write that as like a DeLuca spread, because I was like, they know we started doing it years ago. We got to give it to him. What do you think? And he was all in. But then when he sent that, like, my mind was just blown. It's so incredible.
So I mean, yeah, just everything we've mentioned. Again, you got Black Canary. Well, again, people people love her here, or or people are just like, oh, you gotta watch Harley. Of course, everyone has an opinion on Harley Quinn.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we convinced enough people with her appearance in 1 that my approach to her is a certain way, and I hope people will be fine with it. But I mean, like, the thing to remember is, I said, listen, she's not going to take over the issue. I know she's not going to take over the issue because it's about Dinah and Sin. So I'm not worried about her balance on the team, because I've been writing it and I know that the team dynamic is more fun with her in it, because Barta has a very specific sense of humor, but it's really just observational. It's just that she says things a little funny and we all sort of enjoy it. It's not really like jokes or banter or anything. And then Cass is silent as a stone, and Zealot is pretty close to as silent as Cass. So like, I don't honestly know who Dinah would talk to if Harley isn't there irritating her. So to me, the dynamic is magic. I do not think it'll be exactly this team for the next arc. But honestly, I'm so attached. I mean, I told people it will be changing, but as usual happens, I get more and more attached as we're going in. But I do think Harley will roll off. partly because it just doesn't make sense for what's coming next that she would be involved in the same way, and I want to respect the purpose of it, right? I don't just want to put some fan faves in there. I think Zealot will probably roll off as well, but I do think we've really we've teased some really interesting mysteries with her. So if I can find other ways to dig into that, maybe she'll stay on. We'll see.
Yeah, well, like I said, like I joked, again, it's a team book. It's like, this lineup, not necessarily set in stone. Well, until Kelly falls in love with everybody and it's like,
well, let me tell you this. It will, whether people roll off or not, and I think at least one person will, probably two, there will be team changes to the team regardless. So like other people coming in and a mix up, sort of a, jumbling of things. But like hopefully that's exciting, like,
and
anyway.
I do like the reason why Harley agrees to help, because at first she doesn't want to help, but I love the reason that she agrees to help.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like that's part of what people sometimes get wrong about Harley. I don't mean the writers necessarily, although maybe that's true too, but I mean the readers. Like, she's chaotic, and I know she's too greedy and how much page time she grabs up and stuff, and I get that, but Harley's really interesting, and she really does just follow her own compass, and she knows her north, and she just is committed to that, and it's appealing. And I hope people will be surprised by her. I mean, if you weren't surprised by her in this issue, that's my approach to her, so maybe there will be no more revelations for you, but I think she's pretty great.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at the popularity she has, of course.
Well, yeah, it's funny though, because I can't tell if that's helping sell books or not, especially because nobody sees sales anymore. So I mean, they just Comic-Con, I mean, it just doesn't really exist. I mean, you get royalty statements and things like that, but there's no with Comic-Con not reporting any numbers. I mean, that's the only way comic creators were really checking those numbers. So, did Birds of Prey sell 20,000 or 100,000? I don't know. Maybe somebody will tell me, I hope. But
yeah, like I said, again, Kelly, you're one of the few people I have on who are like, people are like, oh, I have to send in questions.
aw, that's so nice.
Yeah. So again, do not doubt your art. Don't let the haters get to you, because again, like I said, I get good responses when I say you're coming on. I mean, the companies keep throwing work your way, so I don't think.
And listen, people are asking me to do stuff all the time. I'm very lucky. I have a really incredible fan base, like the Substack especially. Like, it's really growing and cool and really wonderful. So I hate harping on, few bad apples, but there's a reason that that phrase is they ruin the bunch. It's because they're very toxic. But again, I'm gonna embrace my Buddha on the mountaintop, a closed mind can't be changed, so ignore it kind of nonsense, and sort of just try to harness my zen.
Again, maybe they'll change their mind one day. Maybe someone will say, "Hey, this book's great." Or you thought, "Oh well."
I do take a lot of great joy in people who have the self-awareness. Like, I saw a bunch of comments on Twitter, and I saw some on CBR and stuff, where someone was like, you know what? I talked a lot of shit about this, but this actually really works. I saw some people going, I owe Kelly Thompson an apology. And honestly, like, nobody owes me an apology. It's not like that, but I really appreciate people being like self-aware with themselves and like checking themselves. Like, that's a real nice accountability, even if nobody really cares anywhere. Like you, me, the internet, nobody cares. But I do sort of care, because it was nice. It was nice to see people saying, maybe I jumped to conclusions here. Because that feels to me like an open mind. Like, that's the mind I'm going for. That's the mind that thinks it knows what it wants, but then read something that it found interesting and can admit it and be like, oh, I'm going to choose to be open to this. I love that.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great life lesson in general. It's like, don't judge something before you've actually experienced it, don't.
Yeah. I do think that comic fans in particular have a pretty hard we have it the hardest, I think, in that regard, right?
Mhm.
Because, the other thing we really do that with is TV, where we, uh, you know, I'm sorry, I've got the hiccups. Where we really start like dissecting and judging an episode when we know there's 3 more episodes before the finale or whatever, right? But I think the core difference is an hour long of television. I mean, that's way more than 20 pages of a comic, so it's a lot more to unpack. The creators have more time to do more. You have more time to be upset about more. It's like a little different of a dynamic, and also you don't pay for that directly the way you do a comic book. I mean, sure, we all pay for cable or our streaming services or whatever. It's a bill, and when your utilities, it comes through, but it feels different than going out and buying books or buying a movie ticket or buying comics or having a subscription to comics. And so I feel like comic fans more than any others, the best place, short of having a comic shop or a friend group that reads comics, the best place to talk about it is online. And of course, you want to talk about the thing you just read that you just paid for, even though you not know it's not over. So I don't even want to discourage people from that. I just wish they'd talk about it a little differently, a little more like they're reading chapter 1 from a book instead of the whole book, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I saw a guy was like, well, why would so and so have her and how will they blah blah blah? And I was like, I mean, I wonder if those will be questions that will be answered in issue 2. Like, I mean, I don't even know what to say, man. Like, those are all great questions. We'll answer them all. Like, you have to tune in for more. Like, we only had so many pages, man.
I mean, I had the question of like, how's this lineup going to come together? And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to read issue 1 and find out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I just don't really get it. I don't know. Anyway.
All right. All right. Okay.
All
I
right,
would ask you
questions. Here
a
we
question.
come.
Well, the first one, I mean, I think you kind of answered this already because they just want to know: do you think about bringing back Barbara Gordon, Helena Bertinelli, and Zinda Blake to this formation? I,
Well, no,
again,
I'll answer. I'll answer it. So Barbara is absolutely on the table. That's a mystery of this book.
I was gonna
That's
say, I know, you need to change stuff up, but if you do bring in Barbara, you have an excuse to bring in Dick Grayson, right?
that's always good.
Yes.
So I think, you don't put Barbara's name on page 1 of your new book unless it's something you're planning that is the elephant in the room and that you're setting up. We
Uh-huh.
are we are setting a thing up here. So Barbara will absolutely be a factor. I wouldn't expect her until issue 6, but my plan is for her to definitely be in issue 6, which I'm working on now. The Huntress, the fans have definitely changed my mind. She wasn't high on my list to roll in, but the fan response to her was so powerful. I'm reconsidering. I'm not saying she'll be in the next arc, but I've definitely moved her to the table. I know this will upset some people, but Zinda is not really on my radar for this. I'm sorry. She's just not. It's my first time writing DC Comics. I'm reaching for like my favorite characters, and so far DC is saying yes all the time. So I'm gonna keep reaching for my favorites. And while Zinda is a great Birds of Prey character, she's just not my favorite. And I also have plenty of white women already, so like that's not a that's not a slot I'm looking to fill here. And if I was going to bring another white woman on the team, certainly Barbara and Huntress would be. Although Huntress, I know that some people, she's Italian, right? So that's like a thing.
Yeah.
She's a white. She doesn't check a diversity box that I would feel comfortable
Yeah.
with, even if it's great to have, some more diversity, even in little ways. Always happy to have that, but I'd rather see, a woman of color on there in a more
Yeah.
significant way.
I mean, for classic Birds of Prey, I guess you could go with Helena Bertinelli, but also, I mean, you also have the other option of Helena Wayne because right now Jeff Johns is playing with that in Justice Society.
Well, I could be wrong, but I suspect if I used Helena Wayne, I would be murdered in my bed. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like when people are saying they want Huntress, they're not asking me for
Yeah,
Helena Wayne.
I
Am I
know,
wrong?
I
I
know.
mean, Phil, are you trying to get me killed?
No,
I
no.
feel like this was a setup.
Don't you want some headlines, Kelly? Come on.
Kelly Thompson almost killed in her bed for using wrong Huntress in Birds of Prey book. Headlines: news at 11.
I don't
So
know.
yeah, so they're all pretty. They're all on the list. Even Zinda's on the list, but she's really far down the list because I just have a lot of people and things I'm trying to get to first, and I don't need a pilot right now. So
And again, it's like, after the first, stay tuned. Maybe the second arc, third arc. Come on,
yeah.
you never know. Oh, okay. Here's another one. This person wants to know: are you going to be bringing back some of the classic obscure Birds of Prey villains?
Maybe, but this first arc is a new villain, and the thing that gets set up at the end of this arc is also sort of a new villain. I mean, that's all I'm going to say right now.
Ew.
But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think that it's maybe a little less true of teams than solo characters, but I'm a very big fan of building out a rogues gallery for characters, and I think the best experience I've had with that so far is doing a sort of combo mix of rolling in old characters with a remake if necessary, and then also creating new, and then hoping some of those stick and that other people can play with them. I mean, that was definitely my approach in Captain Marvel, which worked pretty well. So, I mean, my approach here would probably be similar.
Oh yeah. Oh, and not to get too far off topic, but yes, Zach, I haven't talked to you since I read Captain Marvel 50. Excellent, great job.
Aw,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Yes,
you.
and I'm assuming we're going to be getting another guest appearance by a certain someone. I don't know how much I should spoil for people, but on the last page when they get their mission and where they're going.
Oh yeah, Wonder Woman's gonna fuck them up.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna fight Wonder Woman.
Oh,
And more. It's, uh and yeah, yeah. That cover that Leo did of Barda and Wonder Woman sort of face to face with the lasso, that was a very inspirational. I mean, we gave him prompts. I gave him prompts because he didn't have the issue yet when he was doing that cover. He didn't have the script yet, but so I gave him prompts that were sort of in line with that. But in one of my favorite kind of things, his cover ended up completely influencing one of my favorite scenes in the issue.
oh wow.
And I think it's going to be one of Barda's. If Leo can draw it, if he even puts in half the effort he usually does, I feel like it's going to be one of Barda's best scenes. It's so cool. It's cool. It's cool shit.
I mean, I keep telling writers that it seems like the sign of like a great team is like, when the writer sends a script to the artist and the art comes back and you're like, holy shit, this is better than I even envisioned.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a thing in 2 that it happens in the Constantine stuff so that people will know what I'm talking about when it comes around. But I was, there's a part of being new to DC that's terrifying because, I've been a comics reader since I was a teenager. So I've read tons of DC comics. I'm a huge Batman fan. But I go through phases, and at the end of the day, I was definitely more well-read on the Marvel side, and X-Men particularly, because stuff you read when you're a teen, it just lodges in your brain in a different way, and it's in there forever. Not like the way I'm old now, and I read a story last year, and I'm like, wait, what was that story? Anyway, so I definitely felt a little out of depth coming in, and also just because working with Marvel and being in so deep with them for the last 5 or 6 years, I was still reading a lot of DC, but you just don't understand what's going on and what the plans are for it in the same way when you're a little outside it like that. And I was feeling nervous about some character stuff, and I was really struggling with issue 2 because I wanted to do this thing with Constantine, and I couldn't find like sort of exactly what I needed in the DC universe. And I'm like, I can't believe this doesn't exist. I can't believe this isn't here. I was like, it probably is here, but just in a way that like is a little different. And I was like, well, I'm just going to make it. And if Ben says I can't have it, then we'll figure it out together. And instead he was like, that's incredibly cool. And so let's do it. And then when I sent the script to Leo, I gave him, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, I'd like the visual for this to be interesting of like how they enter this place or whatever. And he came back with the coolest fucking thing. It was so simple and it was so much cooler than anything I could have come up with. And I'm like, yes, it's so amazing when these brilliant people make my job infinitely easier. Because it was just awesome. It was awesome. It's super cool. It's also in the Zealot scene for people who are going to be curious about it, but it's very fun. It's a very fun visual effect that I just very smart. Leo's an incredibly he's an incredibly powerful storyteller, and he's very thoughtful in the choices he makes. It gives you a lot of confidence to work with him because he's just very sure of himself, and rightly so. He's gifted. He's gifted.
All right, so yes, I mean all these so guest appearances: Constantine, Wonder Woman. I have a feeling
Green Arrow will be showing up again in issue 3.
Okay, he's on page 1. Yes.
Yes, and then there will be another guest star I said for 2 that I guess he's in 2 and 3, but I'm trying to hide that one, so I won't say. Yeah. That's part of the reason, like when people were yelling about the cast only being 5 people, they're like, well, just add more. I'm like, listen, you don't know what the plot is. I got Amazons, I got Wonder Woman, I got Green Arrow, I got Constantine, I got a lot of bitches to juggle over here. We can't make the team too big. And then of course Maps and Sin are a factor. So it's just a lot. And if you want the best story, I've learned the hard way, don't overload it for more characters than you have room to do justice to. You have to find, like I was just talking about the Cascade thing, you have to have real estate to find that cool moment for her if she's not going to just be cracking jokes. And so you got to find those places, and it's tricky because you run out of pages fast. Although I'm very much enjoying the luxurious 22 pages at DC as opposed to the 20 pages at Marvel. It's going to make it real hard to go back if I ever have to, though. And I will have to because there's something else to announce soon that is mostly 20 pages. So,
oh geez, this woman never stops working.
Like I said, the bank account demands to be fed. It's an unfortunate reality. But yeah.
No. Your bank account's loss is our gain, Kelly. The only other question, I mean, you kind of answered this one too, but this person says, so looking forward to this book and love the team lineup. So there you go.
Nice.
I was just wondering if the inclusion of Cassandra Batgirl, if Stephanie Brown was also considered, if it was always going to be Cass. Well, Cass is your favorite, so I assume it was.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. I'm sorry to Stephanie Brown fans. She's not really on my radar. Some of it's the similar thing to Zinda, where I like Stephanie Brown. I think she's great. I think I prefer her as Spoiler to Batgirl, just because Spoiler's a great costume. It's a great name. It's interesting. To me, it's more interesting than having multiple Batgirls. Although I thought that Batgirls book was super fun and cool. Yes. I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So, but my issue is more. For both Cass and Steph's benefit, but Cass I'm more concerned with, obviously. They shouldn't be a matched set. They need to be able to be their own women, the same way Dinah and Barbara need to be able. And I don't think that's been such a problem with them because Dinah and Barbara were bigger characters at different times, and so they really were their own selves separately. But I just worry when I see Cass and Steph sort of always snap together.
Yeah,
they need to be able to stand on their own. I think that while the dynamic of Cass and Steph works really well because Steph is sort of a talkative, lighter character, that can I don't know. It it sometimes makes me feel like I'm learning very little about Cass and a lot about Stephanie. And
Mhm.
so I am a little hesitant about that. I would also say that Stephanie has the same problem Zinda does in that I already have plenty of white women wandering around that want jobs. So I don't have any more room. Especially for blonde white women. I mean, there's too many of those.
And again, it's just favoritism. Cass is your favorite.
Yeah. I mean, but that is the other thing. Like, I'm not trying to pretend that's not it. It's my first chance to work on DC books. Like, you obviously want to reach for your absolute faves, and so I've been doing that. And
Oh, I love that series of hers from the her solo series from like what was that 2000?
what Brian Q. Miller?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember he did? I can't remember which issue it was, but he and Dustin Nguyen did an issue or a couple issues that were really, really great. They were some of my favorite Stephanie Brown issues we'd ever gotten.
Hmm. But oh, and since Cass is on the team, are we going to get her an appearance by her mother at some point? Lady
We'll
Shiva?
see. We'll see. It's
Ah.
definitely possible, but
No.
I just think the problem there is like it's possible. It's possible. Shiva's great. I love Shiva. I think she's super interesting. I do think I'm pivoting a little bit for other arcs to maybe more Vixen,
Oh, yeah.
like that. Because I think ironically, and I'm happy to have them, but I've now got a weird situation where I have a lot of white women and then a lot of Asian women. So like, Shiva doesn't feel like as rich a cast when I already have Cass and Sin and Maps, right?
Yeah.
Like suddenly it feels like I'd like more Vixen in something like that to bang her around with everybody rather than Shiva. But there's a lot of great history with Shiva. She's an interesting character. Because we've got so many incredible fighters on the team, it makes a certain amount of sense to bring her in. A lot of people were asking why she wasn't there. They would have rather seen her than Zealot. I hope they won't feel that way by the end of the book. I hope they'll feel like they've learned a lot about Zealot and she's a new character they might care about, but we'll see. We'll see. There is a super deep Easter egg in issue 1 that nobody has picked up on yet, which is a little bit of a bummer to me because I snuck it in. I thought I was being so clever. So, the way the Wildcats, got wrapped into the DC lore,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they sort of came in clean. They didn't come in with all that baggage. So when you like go to a website to look at the history of Zealot and the issues she was in or whatever, there's like the old Zealot and then there's like this new Zealot, just so people know. But so one of the things that old Zealot could do back in the old Wildcats books in the Wildstorm days, is she could create sounds. She could duplicate sounds with her throat.
Okay.
So that's a little bit what that scene of Dinah calling for her through the city with that little whistle. That's about like a signal they worked out because Zealot can. The secret idea is because Zealot can duplicate that, whereas not a lot of people could.
Mm.
So that's sort of like a very deep Easter egg. Like the scene works, it's fine without knowing it. You're like, oh, she's just trying hard to do this whistle. But the super deep secret for the super Zealot fans is a little nod and a wink to a power she sort of used to have.
Yeah, I wasn't as familiar with the character, so I did not pick up
Yeah,
on
no. I honestly,
yeah.
I don't even think the diehards look at it. I'm not sure Ben knew what I was doing. And I was like, that's great that my editor, Ben, I was like, that's great that Ben doesn't know because I'm just going to leave it in. I'm not saying he doesn't know. I'm just saying he didn't tell me no. And I assumed that was either because he wasn't aware of what I was doing or because the scene works without that information. It works fine without it. It could just be a fun thing for super fans. Like me.
That's pretty cool now that I know that. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't too familiar with the character, so
Well, I mean, like I said, she can't do it now, I don't think, or at least the jury is out on whether that would be a thing she could do. We haven't seen it demonstrated, so probably it's not. I mean, we all know that these characters get so incredibly overpowered. They become sort of difficult to write. So I wouldn't expect her to be debuting it anytime soon. But for anyone out there who does like Zealot and is interested in reading more, one of my favorite little stories of her in the new, DCU since the Wildstorm characters were integrated, Matt Rosenberg has an excellent short running through. I guess it was one of running through the Batman Urban Legends stories.
yeah.
I can't remember which issue it is. I think it's like 6 and 7 or something like that. Or anywhere where Zealot has an inner altercation with Wonder Woman. It's very good. It's very cool. It was definitely one of the touchstones that I used for sort of getting into this version of who she was and who she should be.
And you are writing a DC book, so when should we expect the Batman appearance?
Not in this one. Not in this one. Maybe when we come back. The headquarters is in Gotham, and that's not on accident. We want to be close to Barbara and Batman and all that good Gothamy goodness. But yeah, he's not going to show up for a while.
And should I start the chant for hey, should we pick at DC and be like, give Kelly Thompson a solo cast book?
I mean, yes, but honestly, I'd really have to think about what that would be. After reading her or after writing her here, it was so much more of a challenge. Like I dream of doing what Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan sort of beat me to, which is doing an all silent cast issue. They did an incredible one of those for Batgirls, which you should all read if you're a cast fan. But I think you do need a Stephanie Brown or something. I have to say, I don't know if you've been reading Spirit World, but Cass is phenomenal in that. Xanthi is a great character that I'd love to use. But I think Cass works well in there without such a character to bounce off. But it maybe works better because it's not really Cass's book. It's someone else's book that she's a supporting member in. So I don't know. I'd really have to, I mean, honestly, it would be a dream, but I'd have to think about it because when it's a dream, you got to not screw it up. Gotta try a little. You gotta really think about it to make sure you nail it. Like, I would be absolutely devastated if I made a cast book and it wasn't like the greatest thing she'd ever done. I would be devastated. So, it's hard.
I mean, we get Batman team up books every 2 seconds. What about a cast team up book where she teams up with someone different every issue or every arc?
I mean, yes. Like, if I'm not writing that, can I read that? Yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Does Batman have a Marvel team up? Do they do that? Do they have any historical team up like that? Like Marvel team up?
I mean, back in the day, Brave and the Bold, I think.
Brave and the Bold would be a good way you could do it.
Yeah.
Sure. That would work. That would work. Although there is a Brave and the Bold now, isn't there?
Yeah. It's like it's basically like Urban Legends was, but yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that would be the way to like make it make sense. But I mean, honestly, I don't want to take her off of this book. So I hope we're going to go a long time, and I hope she's going to really be a fixture. So we'll see.
Yes, because comic characters can never be in 2 books at the same time.
I'm just saying. Yeah. Maybe that would be. Maybe that would be a lot if I was writing her in Birds of Prey and in a DC book.
I mean, at least maybe. At least it would sync up good because
that's true. That's true.
All right, so I know our time is almost up, so I want to make sure. All right, we promoted Birds of Prey, but tell these people everything else you're working. Well, that you can tell us you're working on your creator-owned book and all that. Yes.
Sure. So the best place to find me if you're having trouble with the social media being all broken is my Substack. You can subscribe there to the free newsletter just to like stay in touch and know what releases are coming out and stuff like that. But there's also a paid option if you want access to like all the cool process posts and behind the scenes stuff. And also we've been doing an X-Men war that's very fun over there where we play war with these X-Men cards. And so it's been like building a little community. It's been very fun. I'm also working on some original prose that's called Margot and Layla Must Die. That's going to start coming out soon. And then, of course, you can get Black Cloak, is my creator-owned book with Meredith McLaren, and The Cull, which is my creator-owned book with Mattia DeUlius. The Cull #2 will be out next week, and so will Black Cloak Volume 1. And if you missed The Cull #1, the reprint will be in shops next week as well. So a whole bunch of books from me next week. And yeah, that's what's going on. I'm hopefully going to announce something else soon. It's not Marvel or DC. It's something else. I'm pretty excited about it. And hopefully more DC too. I'm just sort of getting my feet wet.
Did I see they're collecting some of your Captain Marvel also?
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw in addition to the last Captain Marvel volume 10 or 11 question mark, I'm not sure now. In addition to that coming out this last week, I think, or maybe it's next week. I think it's out now. That, and they did a Strange collection I didn't know they were doing, which is like the first 11 issues of the run, which is yeah, which is a really fun sort of like almost a celebration of Carmen Carnero's work on Captain Marvel, because she did the first arc and she did the third arc. And then it also includes the Captain Marvel the End story that she did. So there's only 2 issues in that volume that are not hers, which is really cool because she's an incredible artist, and it's nice to see her work sort of celebrated like that. And then there is going to be an omnibus. Volume 2 omnibus. I think it comes out next spring. And there's more. It's Jeff coming in October, I think, both in print, the new collection in print, and then a new season 3 on Marvel Unlimited. So lots of stuff.
So yes, she's not that busy, kids, huh? Surprised she talks to us and talks to me as much as she does with all the work you have.
Well, follow me on the Substack, and you too can know all these things that are coming.
All right. But yes, once again, Kelly, thank you for making time. I mean, you're always generous with your time, especially with all the projects you have going on.
Well, I appreciate you letting me come on here and do a monologue. It's a tight 5, but it wasn't tight or 5, and I apologize.
Those are the best episodes when I get to sit back and not say much. I mean, that's what people are here for, to hear you.
I had a lot of energy built up over the last couple of days with the launch and everything, so you got unloaded here, I guess.
I mean, do you always feel like you always get like that excitement build up when like a new project's coming out?
I think there's always a lot to do and a lot of tension and a lot of excitement, but I would say this one was bigger just because it was a big move for me to move over to DC, and I've been working on this a really long time. I mean, while we didn't have scripts in until like January or whatever, I think I pitched this last fall, so I've been working on it for a year. So it's a long time to lead up to 25 pages, and then you just hold your breath and see if what the world says. It's a lot of anticipation. But pretty happy with it, man.
You hit the mark, Kelly Thompson. Good job.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Yes. All right, so yeah, kids, go pick up Birds of Prey #1 out now, and then go tell your shop to pre-order.
Yeah. Put it on your pull list.
Yes, pull list. Yes.
I wish I could make everyone who buys Birds of Prey buy one of my creator-owned comics. That'd be life-changing. Oh, comics is so hard. Why do they make it so hard?
There's just so much more to it these days.
Yeah. It's a lot. That's a lot. All right, man. Thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for your time, and yes, thank you for all the good stories.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for reading, guys. Bye.